Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Noah.
And this is NFGeeks. Alright, so, Noah, you had an idea the other day about some of the videos and you made an SJ connection. That was really great. So I want to give you credit for this idea of inspiration. So why don't you kind of describe the way you described it to me, and then I'll give you some feedback.
Alright, I'll do my best. Well, you were doing a bunch of NF moments with other NF some time ago, and I was just thinking, like you guys, you know, the whole psychic thing, like, you could tell something before it was going to happen. I kind of thought about it a little, thought about it from an SJ perspective and about other SJs, and I kind of thought that we could somewhat come to the same conclusion, but we'd need, like, an extra push.
Sure, and in fact, so what you're talking about is the idea of talking about SJ moments, right. You know, and what are SJ moments. And so,
like, we're not exactly telling the future, but we could make a probable prediction.
Yes,
by having something.
Yes, and so I put some thought into this. So I want to describe the way I'm going to hypothesize the SJ moment right now, and then you could tell me how close or far away it seems.
Okay.
Okay, to you, and then we'll maybe tweak it as we talk about it. So first of all, it's a sensing moment. So it's not necessarily abstract, theoretical. It's picking up something that's actually happening visually, you know, sound, whatever. But it's something that's you're actually picking up something that's actually happening. It's not some sort of intuitive thing into someone's mind. It's picking up something on the surface, something that's really happening right in front of you. Right. Tangible, measurable.
Right.
Okay. So that's the first thing. This is then immediately assessed, okay, in some sort of measurable state. Okay. You then calculate a future outcome, which
most
is
likely pessimistic.
Yep, or right. Exactly. Always pessimistic, and then you immediately take action to stop that pessimistic outcome. Okay. So you see something, you sense something, and you basically go into red alert. This is the way I look at it. Okay. This is an SJ moment, is when the klaxon sound, you know, wee 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 wee, you know, where something's going down, something's wrong in the measurement, something's wrong, you know what I mean? But it's not like mystical like NF stuff. It's more like, look, there's a hole in the boat. There it is. It's 2 gallons of water just came in. You know, it's very specific. And then the prediction is like, we have to stop this, otherwise the boat's gonna sink. And
there's a giant shark. We need to shut down the beach.
Right. Exactly. You know. Exactly. That's SJs. So that's an SJ moment, immediately coming to that conclusion and immediately taking an action to stop it from happening.
Right.
You know, and it's always like a red alert moment. So, all right, so that's my hypothesis. How do you feel about that? Does that seem correct?
I agree with it. Again, like as the first thing you said, it needs, like, the SJs to get to it, to get to the SJ moment, they need a push. They need something that they need.
Right.
Like, they need something to kickstart it.
Right, and I think what it is sensing something real. Sensing a bad thing real, like seeing something bad and understanding that it's bad, but it's seeing something in the tangible sense, in the concrete sense.
Right.
Not in some, I'm getting a vibe. You know,
like
SJs aren't getting vibes. Like, no, I see the crack. You know,
that's going to become a hole.
That's right.
And then this boat is going down.
Right, that's SJ. That's the push you need, is that you need something in the physical world. But once you see the thing in the physical world, you assess it, you realize it needs immediate attention, the alarms go off, and you immediately get to it. You know, that's what I think works.
Okay.
All right, so now that we've narrowed it down, let's talk about some of your SJ moments then. You had one the other day that was even more funnier than the milk.
Really?
Yes.
I don't recall.
Okay, great. We had the great the great box drought of 2012. You know?
Okay.
So this was very funny. This was a great SJ moment of yours, so I'm going to tell it. Can I?
Fine.
Okay. So when Nora and I moved into this apartment, we got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those boxes that you get at U-Haul, you know, to move your stuff. And my sister and I got tons of these because my mother had passed away, you know, Noah's grandmother, and we were moving all my mother's stuff either to my sister's home, to my home, or to, you know, to give it away or whatever. And so we bought hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these boxes. Okay, I mean, literally hundreds. I mean, you know. I got about half of them, and so I moved all my stuff into this apartment in these boxes. And I didn't want to throw any of them out because I thought, well, they might be useful someday for cardboard, or if I had to move again, or give them to someone else, or whatever. So I stacked them everywhere around the house. So every now and then I've been taking them out and moving them and, you know, giving them to people. And so the doctor, wanted some boxes to put stuff in. And I said, oh, I got a ton, I'll bring a few. So I told Noah to get some, and I got some. And then what did you say?
Well, I said there weren't that many under my bed, and that we should...
That's not what you said. You said that we're running out of boxes.
That were under my bed. I said they weren't that many under my bed.
We were having a box deficiency.
No,
No, you were more... You're saying it nice now, but you were more like, this is a bad thing. At the moment. Come on, admit it.
Sure. But I was just telling you.
Right, you were alerting me to the depletion of the box supply.
Yeah, under my bed.
Right. Right, because some of them were stored there. You know. So what are some other SJ moments?
Again, just pessimism about the day, possibly. Like, oh, I forgot this, or I didn't do this, so now this might happen.
All right, but I think SJ moments require an action. You have to actually take an action of some kind. So what are some specific moments where an action had to be taken?
Maybe realizing that I didn't do a homework for a class, but seeing that I have a study, I do the homework in that study.
Okay, I suppose that could be an SJ moment.
Again, I feel like they're more like if we're running out of something or if we forgot something and then we need to go.
Sure, that's actually very ISTJ, SJ moments. Right, the depletion of something. What are forgetting of something. What are some pretty serious ones? What's a real serious one you've experienced that's given you anxiety? Where the SJ moment you had to like run back and get something or pick something up?
I'm not sure. Though, that thing that happened with, like I believe we mentioned on another video where I went to my grandmother's house because Mom didn't come.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you went to Nana's house.
Right. Like, I feel like that was an SJ moment, possibly, because I didn't know where she was. She wasn't on time, so I went, oh, is she late? Did something happen? Maybe I should just go to the house.
Okay, so you took an action.
Right.
You know. All right, how do you think this manifests with SJs in a more serious way?
What do you mean?
Well, like, think of SJs who have more serious jobs, adult SJs in the medical industry or police officers in the military or whatever. You know, how do you think, as an SJ, how do you think it's affecting them? What kind of things are they looking at?
It's causing a lot of stress.
That's funny. You know, I was telling Angela, you know, with some of the other videos, that I think the common mental health problem with SJs is anxiety.
Right. It's because, like, when we go through the SJ moment, when you get to the part where we think of the outcome, it's always the fatalistic, pessimistic outcome, not the what's actually going to happen, or, you know, a positive one.
Right. Well, it's an SJ moment because it drives an actual behavior.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you thought nothing was wrong, you wouldn't do anything, or if you weren't thinking that something might go wrong, it wouldn't drive an action. Like the SJ moment, I think, has to be one that actually forces you to take an action, an SJ action. Otherwise, it's not an SJ moment.
We're the time cops.
Yeah, sort of. You know, I mean, it's there has to be,
because this feels like the way we're talking about it feels like some movie, like where there are a bunch of people just trying to prevent this like apocalyptic future.
Right, like in the space-time continuum.
Right, like
right.
This feels like we're like the SJs are just time cops.
Yeah, really. Well, I'm sure time cops are SJs. You know, there's only one history that we must maintain. You know, but whatever.
Well, I'm trying to make it better.
Yeah. What the SJ moment has to be one that does lead to an action, because then it's a true SJ moment. If it's an SJ moment where you go, oh look, is there a crack? No, nothing happens.
Right.
It has to be, there's a crack that's going to turn bad.
The action is taken to prevent something.
Right. That's why it's a little OCD.
It's OCD?
Obsessive compulsive disorder.
I know what OCD is.
Yes.
It seems OCD.
Well, obsessive compulsive disorder is when you have a recurring thought that's giving you anxiety, and so you take an action to get rid of the anxiety. That's the compulsion.
Would that possibly mean that it's more likely that SJs have OCD?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's I was just talking about this with Angela in another video, that that each type has their sort of go-to mental health disorder. Okay.
What's the NF?
Oh, mood disorders.
Oh.
And T's is alienation and inability to have relationships.
What's the SPs?
Like Asperger's. SPs, I think, is self-medicating.
What do you mean?
Drinking, partying, or being adrenaline junkies.
Then who has ADD?
Well, it depends. You know, a lot of it seems I think that a lot of ESTPs have ADD, and I don't think they really have ADD as much as that's just ESTP. But I think that, you know, sometimes mood disorders sort of create an ADD moment in you, you know, with attention and things like that because of depression. So I think a lot of NFs are misdiagnosed with ADD when they actually have some sort of depression or bipolar disorder or something like that. That's the world according to Mike. I'm just saying, you know.
Next time you see me, send a straitjacket.
Yeah, maybe, you know. Or I got a nasty letter from the American Psychological Association. How dare you use the Myers-Briggs?
You typist!
Yeah, you stupid typist motherfucker. You're an idiot. But, all right, let's get back to the SJ moments. Do you think that the individual types have specific types of SJ moments?
Well, again, I feel more of the, oh, I forgot something, or, oh, what was the other one I said? It was if I forgot something, or if it's not due on time, I forget what I said.
Well, I think that, I want to be more specific now, because I think the ISTJ moment is about measuring something and we're running out of something.
Oh, right.
You know, some kind of measurement.
Right, if something's
we're supposed to have, you know, 500 bottles of, cooking oil or whatever, and we only have 432. What happened to the other? You know what I mean? That's I think the ISTJ. I think the ISFJ is to take immediate action to somebody or something. You know what I mean? Somebody's hurt, somebody's sick, you know what I mean? ISFJs make great nurses for that reason. As soon as those machines start beeping the wrong way, they run. You know? So I think that's their moment. I think the ESTJ is to bark out orders in an emergency. I think
right, if
ESTJ,
somebody's not doing something, right. I need to tell them.
Yes, or there's something, or the ESTJ is like, there's a hole in the boat, fix that hole now. That's the ESTJ SJ moment, you know, but that's what they're supposed to do, you know what I mean? I don't know what the ESFJ moment is. There's a problem, bake a cake? I don't know.
Well, they are the drama queens, aren't they?
A little bit, but right, but I don't know what they should be doing. I don't know. It's funny, because your grandmother was an ESFJ, you'd think we'd know. But, I think maybe knowing that they need supplies, they need food. I don't know what it is. So if you're an ESFJ, let us know what you think the SJ moment is. But I'm pretty sure the ISTJ is measuring of stuff, realizing that there's a discrepancy in measurement. ISFJ is immediate action towards someone's immediate suffering of some kind, or and ESTJ is to bark out orders immediately upon seeing something wrong.
That makes me think that the ISFJ and the ISTJ are way more stressed out than the E's are.
Well, the ISFJ is insanely stressed out. They are the most stressed out of the SJs. I don't know if they're the most stressed out of all the 16 types, but they are the most stressed out of all the SJs because they
it seems like the introverts would be more stressed out.
Well, it's also because they're an F.
Well, yeah,
because they're an ISFJ, and so like when they're having an SJ moment, it's major panic anxiety.
It's red alert.
Yeah, but
it's a warp core breach.
Yes, but it's an anxiety attack, warp core breach. It's less so for you and the ESTJ, I think. For the ISFJ, it's a major freaking anxiety moment. Very anxious, and that's why. But on the same time, what makes the ISFJ good is that's why they immediately react. You're not an immediate reactor. You know what I mean? ISTJs are slow. You're sort of like lumbering all the time. So, I mean, it's not like you wouldn't be a good nurse. They'd be dead. They'd be long dead.
Okay.
By the time you got to that machine...
We're an SJ.
They would be... I know, but ISTJs move slow. You guys are slow.
Well, we wouldn't have that job.
No, right. I know. That's why. Thank God. Because you'd be, like, going to help them. They'd be in the funeral parlor. But ISFJs are quick. Something happens, they like jump on it. But right, their anxiety is through the roof because of that. But that's their SJ moment. But still, what's the? We only got a few seconds or a little bit left. What could be the ESFJ moment?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of like things that have happened with Grammy.
Well, she's good in the aesthetic moment. I'll say that.
What do you mean?
Like, if you need to wear something that... She was like this. Good. If you needed to wear something that matches right away, throwing together an outfit that was really quick because something happened and you spilled something
Right,
on
you're
a
not
jacket.
doing it right, let me take care of it.
Yes, but right. But that's like an SJ moment. You know, you look
Kind
like crap. Let me fix this. You know, this. You know, your cake tastes awful. Let me repair it. You know, things like that. Like,
Right.
it's more of an aesthetic, sensual kind of SJ moment. You know, that outfit looks terrible. Let me iron it. That kind of thing. You know, not to get stereotypical, but that's how your grandmother was. It was more
Right.
like there's something wrong with the aesthetic. There's something wrong with the way this looks. It wasn't that there's a crack in the wall. She didn't give a shit about that. But, you know, those shoes don't match those
Right,
pants.
because that seems more like when she was commenting about what's happening with, you know, whatever was going on with the family. That seems more like the point she would take.
Yeah, that's right.
So it might be the aesthetic.
Yeah.
Moment.
Well, still, let us know. We'll see.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Noah. Good job.
Yay.